there's wasabi. So we're going to start with wasabi, and I'm just base coating. This project here, I'm going to base coat once, I'm going to shade once, I'm going to highlight once, and then we're going to deepen shading. It's a little bit different because we're going to deepen shading with, I'm going to give you two options. When we deepen the shading, I'm going to actually use the fluid acrylics to show you how it just makes everything pop off of the page, as opposed to the toned down version of shading with our regular DecoArt Americana acrylics. And I will be telling you both as we go, and then we've got our original piece to go back to show you the comparison. So base coating like we normally would, all the big leaves. And this is the part of it that I really like. And you know, we can base coat the leaves on the dress too, because even though we don't know what color we're going to base coat, we can still go back to that. And that'll actually help us as well in determining the color that we want to shade the dress with. And one of the things about mixed media too is a lot of it is freehand, a lot of it is using your own imagination, and I'm really trying to stay away from that. I'm trying to keep it fairly structured, because I know as far as decorative painters, and I like to always take myself back to what it was like when I was first learning how to paint. And I was that person. I was that one that took my little list down to the Michaels store, and I tell you, if I couldn't get every color of paint that was on that list, I couldn't paint the project. I was that person. And it really takes a long time to work your head around the fact that you can paint that piece even if you don't have that particular cheek color. But it takes a while. So when I'm branching out a little bit more into having a little fun with the new mixed media products and stepping out into the mixed media world a little bit, I'm still trying to do it structured. I'm trying to offer different choices, show you the color that you could use as opposed to the color that, you know, I'm going to use. So if I'm going to use one of the DecoArt fluid acrylics, I'm still going to tell you that if I'm going to use sap green to darken the shading on my leaves, you can still use the black green like I probably normally would. And that's what I'm going to show you both as we paint. The only thing I'm doing different on here is showing you that we can use a few different elements and how to change the scrapbook paper. So you're still going to have to sort of step out of your little comfort zone, think about it a little bit, and see if you like it. Try something different. And yes, if you don't like your scrapbook paper and you put it on, you can cut out another one and stick it on top. Because then, you know, my original piece, this one here, 3 pieces of scrapbook paper, but you can't tell. So that's a little secret that I'm sharing with you. Because I couldn't figure out what color I wanted. I was struggling with that. So getting my leaves. I'm just worried about the big ones right now. Not worried about my outside lines. I just want to make sure that I get my colors blocked into place. It's all about cleaning up as I go. And most of you that have painted with me, who painted my designs, if you've ever laid out all the colors and put them out in front of you, you'd probably be horrified to see that they actually don't match. No, they don't. So that's the big leaves. We'll do the little ones on here. Get those done. Sing along. You know, I could speed up the video right about now, but it's kind of more fun just to sit here and watch me paint, don't you think? So I've been awaiting a brand new grandbaby. So those of you that follow me on Facebook know that I'm waiting for grandbaby number 2. It's going to be a surprise. They haven't informed us yet. They didn't want to know what it was. It's due basically any day now. So I'm sitting by the phone, waiting patiently for that to happen. Okay, so 3 leaves. So 3 leaves. Now the watermelon. So the watermelon rind, at the very bottom, is also with that. Get that base coated in there. And I actually don't use a lot of paint, if you've noticed too. I do very thin coats of paint. Pick up a little bit of paint, put it in there, I'd rather paint it twice and get a good coat, a nice thin coat, than a thick coat trying to get it all in there at one time. So what I usually do is I'll go do all my base coating, and then I'll go back and base coat again the second coats, instead of working at this, over and over until I'm totally happy with it. And I find when I teach, I know some students want to finish all their green before they move on. So that's the green. So now we're going to paint the little doll faces, and those are mocha. So we're going to DecoArt's mocha. So this is what we're going to do here. Get little faces popped on there. So they got little round heads now. One coat on there. And by doing one coat of paint too, it'll give us a better idea to see how much color this piece is going to have. That's one thing I have to tell you though. By going into the mixed medias, I really am struggling with being able to see the finished product. Because normally I can see it, but when I'm starting to play and add paper and some stamps, and suddenly I can't see it. It takes me a little bit longer. Once I get it though, I'm just amazed. It is actually a lot of fun to play, but it's a scary thing if you're not used to it. I'm going to go back and put these leaves in later. Because the idea is to be able to paint the little bodies instead of painting around all those little leaves. That would be just wrong. Okay. So one coat on there. Then we're going to go into my little round brush, because my round brush is going to make it a whole lot easier. So number 3 round, to paint their little legs and their little hands. This one I'm not going to do. Well, actually, I can. I am. Just going to block it in down here. Even though we're going to have to touch that up later. This little hand. Okay. So the legs. They're just dolls, fairy dolls. Of course, this design, as always, is inspired by my very good friend Terry French, who unfortunately we lost just a year and a half ago. She had a stroke, and I miss her an awful lot. She was a great inspiration. She's the reason I do this at all. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be doing it at all. She had a great idea one day, and she thought it would be good for me, and we haven't looked back. But boy, I tell you, she was just an amazing, amazing lady. Very giving, very loving, very special. It was a shame to lose somebody so young. The family very graciously passed all her remaining designs and stuff that I'd had for painting with friends and stuff. They passed passed them all on to me, with the hopes that I would still see them done. So I struggled for a bit, but I still bring the odd one out. And this one is one it's been very special, and I've been trying to figure out what I wanted to do with it for quite some time. So sharing it with you guys. Okay, so that's our little bodies. Her feet, I am not going to put her feet in yet, because the feet is going to go on top of everything, including the watermelon, which we have not yet finished. Look at my watermelon. Smaller brush for my watermelon. So get the watermelon done in there. Almost forgot that one. Okay, there's the watermelon. So what we're going to do now is we're going to now paint the 3 little dresses. I'm going to change them up, but if you want to go with the original colors, you can. And you know what? Actually, I think I'm going to. And the reason is because I'll show you how to bring the turquoise up into your scrapbook paper. So I think that would be fun. So the bottom one is sea glass. So can you believe I'm actually out of sea glass? So I'm actually going to jump right up into the sweet mint, which is the next color. Sea glass, I don't know. We used an awful lot of it in the last project. So we're going to base coat it with the sweet mint. And that would have just been the shading color, so it isn't going to change the project a whole lot. If you have sea glass, you'll use it. If you don't have sea glass, you can skip to the next one, and we're just going to add a different, one more floating color. Get her base coated. I prefer this color anyway. It's a pretty color. Sea glass I just like the sea glass for shading the first scrapbook paper, so that's why I listed it. But personally, I prefer just to go straight up into this color. It's beautiful. I do move my surface around a lot. I find it just so much easier. This arm is just going to get trashed later when we do the box, but at least we've got her blocked in anyway, so we know where she's going. And get her little feet in. See if I can get her feet in. The feet on the pattern, when you transfer them on, because of the line and stuff, it is going to change a little bit, just because of this line. So I did move them around a little bit, so I'm just going to fix them. Sorry, I'm not going to fix them. So I've got this foot here. I just wanted to take some of that, the lines out of there. Because I want the pattern, it looks like her feet are floating, and they should actually be sitting right on top of the box, because otherwise she's like floating. We don't want her floating. Okay. Because I had to move her feet over because of the line here. If you're not using a grooved surface, then you won't have that problem. Okay. So then I'm going to paint these two little angel dresses. I'm just going to do them in light buttermilk. And that way I'm just going to shade them in a color that's complementary to the dress. And I think I can get away with doing those two in the pinks, and I'll show you when we get there. So light buttermilk. And see, what's another thing about why I've only got one coat, because I still want to go back, like I want to fix that leaf, because the leaf is over top of the dress. So it's another thing by doing just your one coat at a time. You're not constantly overcorrecting. Okay, so that's one. Let's do that. And I'm going to go put my leaves in again after, because I really want to have this dress easy to paint. You see how I did that? I almost dry brush when I want to get into my corners. Almost. This is all fixable, just in case of adding, your lines back later. Okay. We got that. Just enhance a little. Okay. So like I was saying before, in my line drawing, when I did my drawing the first time around, I did my first sketch of this, which has been moved around a little bit. When I first did her, I put wings, little tiny wings, on my girls. And when all was said and done and I had the project done, I already had everything, and I went, oh, I should have put wings on her, but to add the wings at the time, I would have had to go over everything. So I'm actually going to put wings in now. So you can either put wings if you want, Or if you don't want, you don't have to put wings. And we're going to do these. They're just going to be so quick and easy and fun. Just some watered down paint. So we're going to just wet our round brush, our little number 3 round. Going to go in and just take a very washed out watery bit of the light buttermilk. Load my brush with it. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to push it in and pull. I'm going to do 2. See? Just little tiny wings. Sort of transparent, a little bit transparent. Sure. I just thought it'd be fun. She's a fairy. Why not? Oops. And see, this was too wet. I can actually take the whole thing off, which is so easy because it's got that matte medium sealer on it. If you're worried about your brush being a bit too wet, just tap it on paper towel. Okay, so try this again. And because I still haven't finished painting my wings, I can actually do this. Or my leaf. So I can have the choice, I can either have them over top, but I want them behind. So they're actually going to be behind, but I've got them in here so you can actually see them when it's all done. Okay, so the next is the coral blush, and that's for the melon. So we're going to do this. So it's going to give us a better idea of how all these colors are all going to start to work together. So we'll do our coral blush, get our watermelon base coated. This is how I do all my stuff because I want to see how my colors are going to work together. Because a lot, like I said, when you put all my colors beside each other, you'll find that they actually don't always really go together, but they do at the end because I do all my base coating in almost a grayed out kind of hue to the paint, and then I shade with a darker hue, but then my third shading is usually something that's transparent. And I dry brush lighter colors, so it's side by side they don't necessarily look that great, but when you finished, they all seem to kind of go together. Sometimes if I want to just go around things like this, I'll usually have my paint just a little bit watery, almost like a wash. I find it just easier to control and move around and get it to go where I want it to be. Especially for the first coat, it's just easier. Just a motion of the brush is a great thing. Okay. Little house down here is going to be Moon Yellow, which is another one of my favorite yellows. Moon Yellow. And this, because it's got this, we've got the black in there. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of the light buttermilk, just to kind of block that in. Just because of the black that's in there, it'll bleed through a little bit. And this will actually work as a little bit of a primer, just to give me for the transparency. If it was a dark color, it wouldn't be a problem. Okay, oops, goes up here. Okay, so we'll do that. What can we do in the meantime? No! It also is like buttermilk, so we can paint this. It's a little sign. So if you want to, you can even change the wording on there. I've got summertime, but you could change it to something else if you wanted to. So did you all get a chance to watch my house tour, my painting studio tour, my little 9x12 painting space? I had a lot of fun doing that, actually. Showing everybody my little happy place. It's really hard when you have limited space, though, to figure out where you're going to put all the things that you hold dear to you that just have to be within arm's reach. Because I don't know about you guys, but if I put it away where I can't see it, I'll never go back to it. It just won't happen. Okay. I also have a little hairdryer. Love this thing. It's just a little Heat It by Ranger. I don't usually do a lot of drying, but if I'm just like, right now I want to speed this up a little bit, I'll just dry this lightly. I know a lot of people use hair dryers. I'm not overly fond of it, but I do like that little one just to have around just for, you know, these little things like this, just drying up something that's wet. Not the whole page, though. Like I wouldn't have dried the background before with it. Okay, so it's cool. Okay, so okay, we've locked in our color. So now I'm thinking that an idea of that is I think I might, curious, I'm just very curious. My color palette for the dress is going to be Watermelon Slice, Coral Blush, and probably Cinnamon Drop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to decide which one of these three reds I'm going to do on here. So this is where, what's really neat, this is what we're going to do, is we are going to go scrapbook paper, and this is a good way to just find out, get a feel for what's going to happen with your shading colors. So I'm certainly not Cinnamon Drop. I'm thinking Watermelon Slice is what I'm thinking for the shading. So I'm just going to do a little test on my scrapbook paper, and that will tell me if that color is going to look okay. So I'm not actually going to go on here, take the risk of ruining my dress, especially if you're not sure. So I'm going to test it on scrapbook paper. I'm going to take a little float and just do a little piece. So that'll tell me how it's going to look on the scrapbook paper. And I think I actually like that. So I'm going to go with that. Because on the original, it gets brighter as we go. So even though right now it looks a little subdued because of the burnt umber, it's going to really pop when we do, the remaining colors and stuff. So I'm thinking by going bold on this now, it's all going to come together. So we're going to shade this guy. We're going to go all the way around. And it shades so nice because of the medium that's on there. Yeah. And that's actually quite pretty. Right down to there. Because my sunflowers are here. Go around the sunflowers. Look it up a bit. Yeah, actually that I quite like that. And we're going to go up and around. Now, if the scrapbook paper wasn't sealed, you would see a little bit of a variation in the scrapbook paper, and it wouldn't look quite this soft. Although it would still work just fine. It would be just perfect. Okay. Yeah, that's looking pretty. Like that. Do that. Turn it around. I pull all my floats toward me. I don't know, what other people do. I found when I was learning how to float that was the way that just works for me. I think it's the norm, actually. I like that. And we're going to go around the leaves. I go around everything. And I'm not actually reloading my brush each time. As I'm picking up a paint, I'm actually just going into this and just picking up little tints of paint. Because I don't need a lot. I just want little bits, just tints. So I don't necessarily on here have to reload my brush each time. But I will now, because now it's getting my brush is getting a bit dry. Okay, so load it back up. And this leaf here. Doesn't work this good on the decoupage matte medium, although it does create a similar effect. It's just not exactly the same, I find. The tree trunk is actually running through here, so I'm going to fill it in just with, we're going to darken this after, but because it's actually a fill-in, it's shadow, fill that in with the paint. We'll go back and darken that later. We'll base coat it in. Okay, I like that. That's kind of cool. So now, here's another fun thing, is we talked about, ways that we could bring in a little bit of the turquoise if we wanted to. You could do it in tints. I've left some little spots here for highlights. You can just highlight a little bit of the turquoise if you want. We'll find other ways as well. But this is kind of ways of dragging, that color into here. Under here, maybe. There. Hints of it. What we're going to do is we are going to bring more in later. Once we do the tag and everything, we'll bring more of the turquoise in. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my video off, and I'm going to go and do all my second coats. And when they're all done, I'll come back and we're going to continue on with some more little pieces. Okay, so we're going to try this again. Apparently, once again, I've been recording away. There seems to be a problem with my camera, and what's happened is I'm ending up with some corrupt files. So a lot of my little recordings seem to be disappearing. So what we've done is we've gone ahead and done a bunch of shading and also the box, which we've missed. So we're just going to recap on what I've been doing, what's been missed, and hope that it's not going to be too much trouble to continue to follow along. So I'm going to go over where we were. What happened is I went ahead, we left it before as all the base coating, so I went ahead and I base coated my flower centers with raw sienna, and I'm going to put comments in as we go, with raw sienna. And then I also did the box, and this box was what was very interesting, and there was, that was kind of like a really fun thing that I had done that also went missing as well. So how that works, and I'm going to show you. It was very quick, very simple, and only took just a matter of a minute maybe to do the box. And what we did with the box is I taped it off, all the little corners, taped it down the sides, the whole, taped around the entire box. And then what I did is I used 3 colors. I used espresso, traditional burnt umber, and light buttermilk. And I'll show you quickly how we did that. I've got a paper handy to show how we did that. And it's so simple that it's just not funny how simple it is. So, get my espresso. Now I just have to sincerely apologize. I have this great new little camera set up, and I couldn't figure out where some of my little videos were going, and that's, I guess, where they've been going. But that's okay. We're going to get caught up, and now that I know that that's happening, I'll be checking my videos, each little section as we go, just to ensure that this is going to continue to happen. So what I do is I load my brush up with the espresso, and then I tip my brush into each corner just to create a triple loading basically. And then what I do is very quickly is I'm just going to go across like so and create the boards and reload again very quickly and go back. And I'll flip it back and forth. And it goes on so simple. But we started off first by base coating the entire box with one coat of espresso, just to give it a bit of an undercoat. I'm not worried it was transparent. It was just to give it a bit of a coating, and that will be what shows through where the little dry brushing marks are. And then of course when I get to the corner, which is this little part here, it did go upwards. So I'll take that and I'll go at my angle. And just very quickly, just stroke that in like so. And if you're worried about the coverage, just go over it. Just blend it out ever so slightly. So that's how I did that. And by taping it off, I was able to keep, nice sharp lines. Then I peel my tape off. And one of the things that I did do is, just because of her little arm was in there, just to go around her arm, is I just taped it off. I just put a little sticky note on her arm so that I could go back and forth without making too much of a mess on her arm. So that's how I did the box. I can't get my sticky note off. Then what I did is this little spot here, we're going to go back in and we're going to paint it black later, so I'm just going to ignore it for now. We also do, I'm going to bring this up close to you to see how, so you can see it up close. And see where it's transparent. We can see the base coat underneath. There's sections that don't have a lot of paint. That is what we're going to do with black. We're going to, when we fill this in with black and we shade in between the lines, we're going to go and we're going to add black in to create sort of these little old weathered cracks and cracked wood, and add a little handle and everything. And it's going to look like this one. Yeah, well, might put a stamp on it or something after, but we're just going to add a lot of black to make it look like a little old board. So that's how that got done. And then we started doing a lot of our shading. So I started off, burnt sienna is what we shaded with, right there. So that's all burnt sienna based over the raw sienna. Burnt sienna, burnt sienna. And I'm keeping it all into the corners. And I'm building it up. I'm going to actually do a couple more. A couple of them aren't that dark, so I can reshade them here so that you can watch me do it. We'll start with this little corner one here. So I use my floats tend to be very watery, so what I'll do is I want to bring it out like that and then bring it across. So it's just creating sort of this little section in here that's darker. Then I'm going to mop it just to soften it towards the center. So we're going to do all my shading around here, this little fella up here, and then these guys, and along here and across the bottom, softening it out as we go. So that's all the burnt sienna. Then we're going to take mustard seed, my mustard seed, and we're going to highlight all the tops. So we're going to actually just reverse the piece, put it the other way, and exactly the same thing. I'm going to load my brush, and I'm going to highlight in exactly the same way with the marigold or mustard seed, and just pop that in there. Little C-stroke, just soften the blend. Same up here, and walking it down just a little bit, and up here. 3 flower centers, then the ones on the dress. So we're going to walk that out around the top, and same as this, right up in here with all the mustard seed, nice and soft. Blend them all out. And then with mustard seed as well, because now we've done the 5 flower centers, so we're going to shade the little yellow house. And it'll get shaded with mustard seed, and it'll go along here and down here, and just across underneath the window there, or the roof line, and along the bottom. And so that will give the mustard seed on the little house. And then we're going to do the little dresses. And with the little dresses, we talked about earlier about how we were going to shade the little dresses so that they were going to coordinate with the eye for the turquoise one down here, and to bring in the colors of the dress. So what I did is I chose to shade the top one with the coral blush along the side here against the flower. And that way it was sort of, your eye would come around. And once we bring turquoise in here, your eye is actually going to flow, and you're going to see everything instead of seeing this red and white stripes, blue. It's all going to start to come together. So coral blush shaded along the side of the flower on the light buttermilk dress. And then we're going to do the sweet mint on the little flower fairy that's sitting here. And I chose to do the sweet mint because there's pink here, and I didn't want to bring have pink on pink. So this way we've got our contrast, but then I'm going to put little pink polka dots in here like we did on the original as well. So we're not deviating very far from what I had done originally, except that this dress now has been shaded with the pink. We're still using the same color palette. Nothing's changed from the instructions and the color palette that I used. So we do the little fairies, and then what I've done is I've gone and I've highlighted with white, with the warm white. So I'll turn my piece around again, and my highlighting will be white, warm white, pulled along here and up the sides and just walked in. And same here along the bottom and up the side. So that will finish off the dress. And then that finishes the little fairies for now until we get into some other color, little accents and fun little bits. So then I went ahead with my Sunny Day, and I chose Sunny Day. It doesn't sound like it's what you would probably use, but it's a really pretty bright yellow. And I actually use Sunny Day on the leaves. And I'm going to shade a couple with you for the highlights. Sunny Day is very pretty. Although it's a yellow, it just works so pretty on the greens. And when we float with it, it just gives you such a nice little highlight on the flower leaves, or on all your green leaves. Just with the wasabi, it's kind of that nice bright, gives it a little punch of color. So I shaded all the highlighted all the leaves on the tops, in the tip parts, in here. Keeping the highlights primarily towards the top part of the flower or of the leaves, and on the high parts as well, because the shading is going to go on the bottoms at the fat part of the flowers. So I did all my leaves, and then, because you can't stop at the leaves, we have to do everything that's green. Then I came along and I did my watermelons, and I highlighted along under here with the Sunny Day as well, and under here, Sunny Day. So all your leaves, Sunny Day, and your watermelons, Sunny Day. And let's pop a few more in here, because I did them very softly the first time, and because it is such a soft color, I'm just going to punch those back up so you can see how I'm doing that. And see how I'm just keeping it at the tips and on the higher part. Same here, this is the higher part. Tips. A couple more, whatever. Do this little fella right here. just to give you an idea. So you really didn't miss much. It was just a repetition of shading. It was just going through all the colors that we missed. And we just punch these guys up a little bit, just because I can. It's such a pretty color. And this one. Okay. So we did all of that. And Sunny Day also is the color that we're going to highlight the left side of the house. Okay, so you've got your mustard seed shading and then the Sunny Day for the highlight. So now we're going to do is we're going to shade the leaves, and the leaves are shaded with evergreen. And if you want to shade them first and do the highlight second, it doesn't matter. You can do either or. So with evergreen, I'll reshade a couple of the leaves here to show you how we did that. And I'm using C-strokes again because I'm working at the base of the leaf. So what I'll do is I'll angle my piece a little bit, and again my C-stroke. I'll bring it down just a little bit so that we're working along the bottom parts, so the shadows at the bottom of the leaves, the highlights are at the tops. So I go through and I'll do all my leaves that way. See if there's a couple more that I can add some color to here. Because we're going to do a second shading on all of these to bring these colors to life and just finish everything off. It'll be so pretty. So you're going to do all your leaves with their shading. Then you're also going to shade the watermelon along the bottom in exactly the same way. So we're going to come along. Make sure your highlights are dry, of course, before you come along. Shade all our watermelons along the bottom here as well. So now we've created watermelons and rind. So that's with all the greens. And then we did the watermelons. And the watermelons were done with, they were originally painted with the coral blush, so I shaded them with the watermelon slice. And I shaded them at the top. And with the top, what I did, move my piece around again, so I like to pull my floats towards me, is with watermelon slice, is I shaded the tops, and I pulled it down. I walked it down as far as I could. It's a nice watery float, as far as I could. And then I reload, and then I come back and I'll do the other side and walk it down as far as I can. I'm not going down here. I'm just going across the top and walking my floats down. And then same here. It won't even hurt for me to do it again. Especially on the bigger one, so I can add another one on that just to, because sometimes you might have to go over it a second time. Get that done there. Puts a little bit more. And see how I'm just walking the color down as far as I can bring it. Load again. Walking it down. And then I'll mop it while it's still wet because I want it to sort of have a little bit of a transition without any lines is what I'm trying to do. And then we're going to do Coral Shell, which is the color then that I used for the highlights along the bottom of the watermelon. Turn my piece around again. Are you getting dizzy? I am. So with Coral Shell is I'm going to come along with my brush and I'm going to float all the way along the bottom in the same way, and I'm going to walk my float up a little bit as much as I can. Same here. Just walk it up. Here as well. Walk it up, and then as I'm walking it up, I'm going to very quickly just give them a mop so that I can blend the two. And then same here. Walk it up a little bit. There's going to be another highlight going along here as well. So we're only trying to create a soft transition of dark to light. We don't want to have these solid lines because we're going to add more. Okay. So we just have one more float to get this exactly where we want it to be for the first floats on everything. So this one is the little sign up here. And I like using raw sienna with, I like the way it gives it just sort of a nice little antique-y kind of look. So I'm going to put a little raw sienna out. Kind of gives it that tea-stained, old weathered look without going straight into my burnt umbers. So I'm going to shade the sign all the way around. And see how I'm keeping my floats watery again here as well? Just so I can have that little, you know, dirty, tea-stainy kind of look, which I like. Give it a quick dry because we don't want to pull it away. There. I'll just give that a little mop. Call that done. So this is officially first shading on everything.